ahead of the talks, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner meeting with Oman's foreign minister who is mediating the talks. Now, they are the first official talks between the two sides since the U.S. bombed Iranian nuclear sites last year. President Trump has weighed a new wave of strikes on Iran in recent weeks if Tehran does not accept U.S. demands. Joining me now is CNN Global Affairs analyst Brett McGurk. You once led talks with Iran in Oman. What is it like in these talks? Describe the scenario and the tension that is there.
Yes, I've clocked a lot of many weeks of my life in Oman with their foreign minister, Saeed Badr al-Zubaydi, the foreign minister there who you just saw. Look, the Omanis have a role to play here. They're peacemakers. They try to bring everybody together. And we're all hopeful that these talks can succeed. We want to give diplomacy a chance. But let me tell you why I'm skeptical. It's partially from my own experience in doing these talks and also just the context and the backdrop here. I mean, keep in mind, Sarah, it was about a month ago on January 2nd, President Trump drew a line saying that if Iran cracks down on these protesters, he will come to their rescue. And since then, the Iranians made a decision to do this incredibly violent crackdown and really a historic massacre of the Iranian people. We still don't know the full numbers, but in the thousands. And what's happened since then is the Iranians have tried to pigeonhole these talks into the nuclear file. And like the backdrop there, Iran for decades has said we will only discuss with the Americans three issues. Number one, their nuclear program. Number two, sanctions relief, which they demand for any steps on the nuclear program. And number three, what they call consular talks, which is another way to say hostage talks when they take American hostages. They've refused to talk about anything else. The American position, given that the context here has totally changed, particularly after the war in June, says no, we have to talk about the nuclear program, about Iran's support for terrorism, about ballistic missiles, and I also hope about ensuring the Iranians can no longer crack down and suppress their own people violently or through these communication blackouts. So if these talks are only about nuclear, which Iran insists on, I think it's very unlikely you'll get a deal. And even if the Americans said, okay, let's only talk about that, that's a very complex subject matter. It involves nuclear physics, it involves you need nuclear expertise, and the sanctions are incredibly complicated. That's a process that takes a long time. It can't be done in a single day. So while I'm hopeful we can have a diplomatic off-ramp here, I'm very doubtful that this is set up for success. And in fact, the Iranians seem to be, as of this morning, insisting on what they call indirect talks. And I've done these. This means the Americans are on one side of the diplomatic compound in Muscat, the Iranians on the other, and the foreign minister, Bosseidi, is kind of moving back and forth, passing messages. That's a very inefficient way to communicate. Yeah. A conversation between me and you that could take 5 minutes can take 3 hours just in terms of passing written messages. So if that's what's happening, I'm even more doubtful. So we'll see as the day unfolds, but this is really not set up for a successful outcome.
Yeah, what you described there is like playing telephone. It's like there's an intermediary going back and forth. Stuff can be lost also in those discussions. That would make things very, very difficult. I do want to ask you about this. Back in 2021 or somewhere around there, several high-level Israeli intelligence and military figures said that the Obama-led Iran deal was not great, but that it should not have been torn up in hindsight. Now the U.S. is back at it again, and a lot has changed since then. But is Iran any different in its stance than it was?
No. I mean, look, Iran has spent hundreds, billions of dollars by some estimates on this nuclear program, a program that has produced almost no power for the Iranian people. Even at most, it's about less than 2% of total power for Iran. And it still insists on having this program. And we all know it used to be a military program. And they kind of still have all that apparatus intact. But what's changed is that there was a military strike in June. The program has been significantly set back. And the Iranians here are kind of acting as if nothing has changed. And so I'm very doubtful that can have an outcome. I'll say one thing, Sarah. You know, the Iranians had a chance after that, the JCPOA, because there was a hope among some who did that deal that maybe Iran's regional behavior would actually change. They would stop support for their terrorist proxies. They would maybe open up their economy a little bit. None of that happened. They actually kept their same foreign policy, their same domestic policy. And so long as the supreme leader is in charge, and he is, Iranian behavior is really not going to change. So let's hope for diplomacy, but as of right now, not likely to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, the people of Iran going through those terrible massacres, really. We're talking some 12,000 people they believe may have been killed in those protests. It is such a disturbing situation on the ground there.
It needs to be top of mind. I agree.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in these talks. Brett McGurk, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. John?
All right, new this morning, private data shows the worst January for jobs cuts since the Great Recession. And a lot of analysis looking into the impact of AI on jobs cuts. And this is something that even kids in high school are having to deal with. CNN business tech reporter Claire Duffy is with us now on all of this. What are you learning?
Yeah, so I was really curious, knowing how much we've heard about how AI is going to impact especially entry-level jobs. I was curious how high school students are thinking about this. And I spoke with kids from several different places across the country. And it sounds like this really is top of mind for high school students right now. I want to talk to you through what I heard. I talked to Sevilla Ruby Broadhead. She is a junior from California. She wants to be a dancer or theater actor when she grows up. And she says right now she's not really using AI tools because she's worried about how they could impact her critical thinking. She says she thinks it's important to learn without AI. She told me that she is worried about what this is going to mean for her future career. She said, my concern is for acting because there was that issue with using actors' faces and voices for AI, especially seeing how much visual AI art has been used and that it's putting actual artists out of work who are already struggling enough. She says, I hate it. So that's sort of one end of the spectrum. I also spoke with Lincoln Vonk. He's a sophomore from Georgia. He's hoping to be a politician or a business owner. And he said he is already experimenting with how to use AI in that future career, drafting mock bills for a mock legislative activity with the help of AI. He says, I use AI to better understand different facets of an issue. I've used it for religious questions before to understand different denominations of my faith. If you want to be competitive in a space, you have to be on top of AI. But he also said he's worried about the misinformation implications of AI tools, as many of his peers are scrolling on social media. They don't know what's real and what's AI. And then finally, I also spoke with Carissa Tang. She's a senior from California. She's hoping to be a product manager or an entrepreneur. And she told me whether we see the good or bad in it, we know it's going to impact the way we live. She said, I think many teens are concerned about AI's impact on employment. And she actually used AI to help her decide where to apply for college. She put in sort of the ramifications that or the sort of qualifications she's looking for in different colleges. AI spit out a list of where she should apply to. And she's planning on studying both business and philosophy or religious studies. This is something I actually heard from an expert that a lot of young people are looking to do, is study something more technical, but also something in the humanities to sort of hedge their bets, as we don't know which of those things AI is going to have the biggest impact on.
Yeah, look, as a big supporter of the humanities and studies of the humanities, it's a pretty good place to be because AI can't replace that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Makes you think. All right, Claire Duffy, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much. Sarah?
Some great advice for high schoolers. All right, ahead for us, new details this morning about Jeffrey Epstein and genetic testing, how he was trying to use it. Plus, fire, juggling, and a unicycle. Drivers in one Colorado city got an impressive and highly illegal stoplight showstopper. Okay, and we're just days away from the cutest game of the year. Puppy Bowl 22 is back and bigger than ever. What you can expect from Team Rough and Team Fluff.